So we've done a video on backward dips and trucking, which are both very similar to forward dips, but the weight's slightly different. So let's cover the technique of the forward dip. So when doing a forward dip, you're kind of in this position. Now to get low like this, I find that I need to release the weight from the toe of my front foot. So I'm almost doing a heel-toe manual. So it's really, really good if you've already unlocked a heel-toe manual. So we're just quickly going to go over that now. When you're going to do these manuals, you want to stay in a nice stagger position, and the front one, the toe lifts, and the back one, the heel lifts. So it's just a matter of keeping your balance. And I find if you keep this toe underneath you here, that really, really helps. So once you've got a really nice, comfortable heel-toe manual, we can move on to getting the lower dip position. When you actually do the dip, you don't actually do the full heel manual at the front. But the reason we've practiced that is because I do release a lot of weight from my front truck to allow me to get into that low dip position. I'm extending this behind, so if I don't release some of the weight, this foot's going to be hard to control and very heavy. So if I can get a wider stance by releasing some of the weight off the toe, and I can get nice and low. So here, release some of the weight from the toe, nice and deep. Now, let's try it moving. And of course, once we start to move, you can start to incorporate edges as well. All I'm going to do is roll forward in a moderate speed. Now, I have done a whole video on moderate speed and why it's so important, because it just makes everything a little bit easier with that little bit more roll. Okay, so I'm going to skate forward with a little bit of roll, and all I'm going to do is just slip this back leg behind me, just to feel that dip position. So think about releasing some of the weight from this front toe, and that will make it a lot easier to get that low dip position. So when you're doing this, the weight split is about 60-40, and the 60 needs to be on that front foot, because in a minute we're going to need a little bit of pressure on that foot to get some edges. We're going to do an outside edge first. So straight away we're going to think little toe. However, we've got most of our weight on the heel. You can still think little toe, but it's going to be outside of my heel. So you have to think that because the weight's slightly more on your heel, you've got to press down into that heel and press towards the outside. And what's going to help, as always, is the shoulders to take you. And it's the front foot of the dip that's going to do that edge. So let me show you what I mean. So a little bit of speed, I'm going to do my dip position, and I'm going to lean here. Change feet and lean, change feet and lean. So not only am I turning my shoulders, I'm getting a real dip of my shoulders as well here, and that's really pushing me round. So let me show you from the back as well. Here, really deep. And all the time I'm thinking, lean on the outside of my heel, not the little toe. So a forward dip can also be done on an inside edge, but it just feels kind of awkward. However, I'm going to show you a nice little sequence of steps which uses the inside dip, and it looks so cool. So the little step sequence includes two different steps, the front dip on an inside edge, but also a little heel pivot. So I'm going to show you that first, and then we can put the dip with it. So what I'm going to do is, you can travel quite slowly for this. I'm going to put my heel out, and I'm going to travel around it on an inside edge. And I'm going to go straight, heel, around it on an inside edge. Straight, heel, around on an inside edge. Now, what's important here is I'm really leaning on this inside edge, because in a minute we're going to use that to get power from. Inside edge, inside edge. This shoulder, the outside shoulder, is doing a lot of the work to pull me round. Let's put the dip on the end of our little pivot step. So I'm going to do my pivot step here. Now as this foot comes around, this is going to be the front foot of my pivot, and this is going to be the one on the toe manual. So I'm going to come around and I'm going to pivot. I'm going to come up, and this is going to be my pivot, and it's going to turn into here. Pivot and dip. So the foot going up becomes the back foot of my dip. Here and down. Heel up, inside edge, here. So the reason I showed you this pivot move here is that is where you get your momentum from. So without that inside edge, you're very quickly going to grind to a halt. So once you're doing it, you need to get the push there into the pivot. Push here, into the pivot. And plus that heel up just looks so nice. I love this move so much because it almost looks like you're moving forward, but you're kind of not. It's like you're hanging in the air, and it just looks so cool. I've seen a few people do this on Instagram, and it just looks so good. So once you get it up to speed, you can kind of get this like float here, where you're almost like kind of not really moving, but you are. It's that, and you go nice and low there. You can really style this one out as well. And don't forget, filming yourself is a great way to gauge your progression. And if you do happen to upload any reels, don't forget to tag me. My Instagram and my TikTok handles are both @Skatie UK. I'm Katie, you've been watching Skatie, and I'll see you next time. Bye!